Hello, viewers. My name is Xander Phoenix, and the following audio is recording of the Glenn Beck Show, September 13th, 2013. I'd also like to mention Freedom Farms Foundation. Check us out on Facebook. What we're trying to do is set up self-sufficient communal farms to help the homeless, people without jobs, or those who are unable to find jobs. So please enjoy.
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
There's a couple of stories that I think that you need to hear about. Some feel-good stories that are.
We have the feel-good story of the century coming up.
The two unlucky thugs attempted to carjack a concealed carry permit holder in Houston, Texas, on Tuesday. The miscalculation turned out to be deadly, as the would-be victim shot and killed one of the criminals and wounded the other. After returning to the movie at Redbox kiosk outside a local McDonald's, the man was approached by two suspects who attempted to steal his car for the rims. The suspects also took his cell phone and his car phone, or his car keys. The man was forced out of his car and pushed down. What the aggressive criminals didn't know is that he was a concealed carry permit holder and had his firearm on him. Sensing the situation was dire, the man drew his handgun and opened fire. He fatally shot one of the robbers and wounded the other suspect with 2 or 3 fatal shots. The second suspect fled the scene and has not been apprehended. Grand jury will consider whether deadly force was necessary to avoid his own death or harm. You know, I'm really not for that law. I don't think I have to prove that I felt that I was going to be killed. If I feel that, there's got to be some reasonable way that we can say, it was reasonable. I don't want to have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt or anything else. If I really felt that I was in danger, and I'm in that kind of situation, if it was like, so you came home and your wife was cutting up chicken and you shot her. Well, she had a knife. And I thought, that's one thing. But if somebody is stealing my stuff and they've got me down on the ground and, they've got guns, knives, whatever, if there's 2 or 3 of them and it's just me, if there's one of them and it's just me, I'm going to take my gun out and shoot them if I can.
If you have a concealed weapon permit, the training you have to go through to get that, we should believe you. I was in fear for my life. Okay.
It's I don't understand that. Again, Zimmerman, the problem comes in is with Zimmerman. Zimmerman was following somebody. And so I do want to have a conversation about that one. I do want that one to be investigated. You were following him. But if somebody comes up and is robbing me or whatever, I'm not going to shoot somebody because they're robbing me. Look, you want to take it. It's not worth my life or your life. Take it. However, in today's world, I don't know what kind of sick person you are.
Mm-hmm. And you don't know what they're going to do to you, even if they get the money.
If I have the opportunity to shoot you, I'm going to shoot you. And anyway, here's the point on this. I'm watching the stories on the Blaze. There's a lot of sick stuff going on. And I have been telling everybody that I know recently that I work with to watch City Lights, Charlie Chaplin. Because I have this theory on Charlie Chaplin, that Mickey Mouse was Charlie Chaplin. I think that's the same character. The two icons of the 20th century were Charlie Chaplin and Mickey Mouse. And people still say that Charlie Chaplin was a genius. Mickey Mouse was a genius. Well, Walt Disney was a genius. But I think it's not that they're genius as much as they just tapped into who Americans really are. And here's who Americans really are. Americans believe in the little guy. As long as the little guy is trying to do the right thing. The average person, that's why Hitchcock worked. The average person that just finds themselves in this amazing scenario and they're like, I'm just a doctor from Kansas. How did I get involved in this international intrigue? Just the little guy who finds himself in a world where everything is stacked against him, and yet he wins. As I'm watching The Blaze and I'm seeing the stories that you are reading now, you have changed. You have changed. You used to be much more interested in stories of what's going on. You still are. The number 3 story, the number 4 story, 5 story, those are all about the news of the day. But almost every day, the top 1 or 2 stories is something about the little guy winning. The number 1 story right now by 3 times is the 13-year-old country singer that brought Simon Cowell to his feet. It is a story of a woman who some would call handicapped, but she didn't appear handicapped to me. She is bright, intelligent. She doesn't hide it. She doesn't care. She's not embarrassed by it, and I don't think she wants any sympathy. She's just a person that her body operates differently than everybody else, and here's who she is. And it's an amazing story, an amazing video. That's currently the number 1. The number 2 is the story I just gave you. The story of the thugs who are pinning a guy down to the ground. Americans are really, truly connecting with who they are again. And they are hungry for stories that are telling them, you can make it. The good guys do win. You know, we started something on The Blaze about a year ago, and I didn't tell anybody that we were doing it except for the news department and the news director. And I just said, put this in every day. And we have. And Pat was the first one to come up to me, I don't know, about 6 months ago. And he said, have you noticed there's like an uptick of good guys winning with the guns? Like all these stories are coming out of people who are saving somebody from being murdered or kidnapped or saving somebody. I said, no, that's, I just told the news director, I know there's one of these stories every single day, and nobody ever covers it. I want one every day. And every day, they're one of the top stories. Every single day, it's top 1, 2, or 3 story of the day is that story. What does that tell you?
Yeah, no matter how many we put up there, they just keep getting consumed. Mm-hmm. People just consume them day after day after day. And, you know, they're similar in nature, but
right.
It just makes you feel like you're empowered.
You're empowered.
Yes.
Like because you are.
You're not a victim.
Empowered. Yes.
Like our rights do matter. And
so everybody else is going on these victim stories. Mm-hmm. We are going on the little guy wins story.
And the forgiveness story from the other day that was great with the robbery, the armed robbery from 11 years ago.
Oh, my gosh. Do we have that story?
Yeah, well, that's a
Listen
great
to this
story.
Listen to this story. This is an amazing story.
It's a rather unusual story of redemption and second chances, all in one. A Nashville market was robbed at gunpoint 11 years ago, something the owners really wanted to keep in the past. But to their shock, a letter arrived this week apologizing for the crime, plus the money that was stolen. Channel 4's Forrest Sanders joins us now with more on this story.
Well, Alan, when the owners of Inter-Asian Market in Delhi got an envelope from someone who would only explain money was inside, they were very leery. Taking every precaution, they even got their attorney to open it. But the note they found inside has touched them deeply.
It's just, it's amazing. It's inspirational, really, for somebody to have the courage to come back and face the person that you've done wrong, even though it's hard. Sometimes we need to give people a second chance. All right, thank you.
For 19 years, Samboon Woo's family has been building a loyal customer base here at the Inter-Asian Market and Deli on Nolensville Pike. But in all that time of hard work, Woo says he'll always remember a scary night 11 years ago when his father was robbed at gunpoint.
I don't think most people will forget if they ever get robbed. My dad definitely didn't forget it.
Woo never thought he'd face the man who robbed his father until a stranger arrived at the market this week, dropped off an envelope, and left.
He was really insistent that we take this, that we had to take this.
Inside was a handwritten letter by a man claiming to be a drug addict who 11 years ago came in, picked up a six-pack of beer, and when the register opened, robbed the store of $300 at gunpoint. Enclosed with the letter was $400. And the message: I do not use drugs anymore, and I feel I must make amends to the people I have hurt in the past.
But Dad, we couldn't believe it.
Woo says this letter is a shining example that people can change and make wrongs right.
Obviously, he has a great heart, but he just got caught up in some bad situations.
Now Woo says he wants to answer a letter that ends with the line, I hope you will accept this money and find forgiveness. Peace be with you. Anonymous.
If he's watching, or whatever life takes you, just know that we forgive you for what you did.
How great is that? How great is that? That was one of the big stories on the Blaze this week. Here's a guy who obviously is going through a 12-step program, and he is making amends, and he's trying to make amends where he can and getting that off his shoulders. There is a great desire, and this is why I think this president has missed the opportunity, because he doesn't know who Americans are. Just like he's not a sports fan. He didn't grow up here, and that's not a slam on him or anything else. He didn't grow up here. He wasn't immersed in the culture. I grew up here. I'm not a sports fan, but I am a fan of the history of the country. I grew up here, and I was lucky enough to grow up in a family that appreciated the heritage of the United States of America. He didn't. He grew up in a family that hated the United States of America, and he has been surrounded by people who hate the United States of America. That's not a slam on him. That is a fact. It's just a fact. So you wouldn't expect him to be anything else. This country gave him the opportunity to go from a guy who grew up in Asia, surrounded by people who hated the country, to become the president of the United States. Now, I do contend that he didn't earn that. I do contend that he was selected, that he was chosen by the Soroses of the world, that he didn't earn that. He gave a good speech that I don't know if he even wrote. He was a good speaker. He was somebody that everybody knew that you'll get away with murder because he's likable and he's black. And so we'll be able to use that and cry victim every time. And he would be okay with crying victim because that's the kind of people that he surrounded himself with his whole life. People who liked Jeremiah Wright, liked to cry victim at the drop of a hat. But that's not who Americans are. Americans do not hate. Some do. Americans are not bigots. Some are. But we have grown so much. Americans have always liked the little guy, Mickey Mouse, Charlie Chaplin. The little guy that may be different, that's on the outs, that the world seems to be going in the opposite direction, but he does the right thing because he has a good heart. And somehow or another, in the end, he may not win the trophy, but he wins a bigger prize. He is the winner in the end. America is looking for the stories because they're looking for somebody to verify what they have always known to be true, that they are not victims, that they are empowered. That's the biggest robbery. But they can take all of our money. They can take our houses, they can take our value. But if they take that understanding that we were all endowed by a creator with certain inalienable rights, if they take from us our hope and our dignity, if they take from us our ability, our willingness to look at any situation and say, I can conquer that. Together we'll get through it. I'll cross any mountain. Join me, brother. If they take that from us, they have fundamentally transformed us. But I'm telling you now, they haven't. And the people in Colorado, the theft of the week happened in Colorado. The fact that the media made no big deal out of what 7 people did in Colorado this week, that they stood up against the giant machine of Bloomberg. What was it? Was it 5, 6, or 7/8 of all of the money that went into that recall campaign came from the Bloombergs of the world? Came from this enormous progressive machine that wanted to keep people down and say, you don't have a right to protect yourself. You don't have a right to have a gun. You don't have a right to do even control your own state. 7 people stood up and they started a recall campaign, and they didn't just bring one of them down, they brought both of them down. That wasn't supposed to happen. That's the story of the little guy standing up against the machine and winning in the end. That is the quintessential American story. And the Blaze will continue to give you those stories. The Blaze will be the home of those stories. We don't have to look very hard. They're there every single day. We're not making them up. We're not out there scouring to try to find one. They are the authentic story of America, and they happen every single day. Sponsor this half hour is FreedomWorks. Here's the machine that you have to stop. It's Obamacare. The machine you have to stop is taking away your ability to get the health care that you have always grown up with. It may not have been free. It still was expensive. It still was a hassle. But it wasn't some Soviet system. It wasn't Cuba. But that's where we're headed. And right now, I know because I have friends who are losing their health care, or their health care is going up because the companies can't afford it anymore. I happen to run a company that is lucky enough to be able to afford it, and it has been my vow to my employees that I will do it as long as I can unless it starts to put the company in jeopardy. But we're headed in that direction. Everybody is.